So how's it going, guys? Rest in peace to Chester Bennington of Linkin Park. This is horrible news. This came as a shock to me. I wasn't expecting this. Another young life taken, committing suicide. Now, they're not sure in the details of what it was. It was probably a drug overdose, if I could garner a guess here. And once again, it's another celebrity victimized by the drug world. And we always like to joke about drugs. We like to make light of them. You see it all the time in comedy. And we like to, laugh about it and, call people drug addicts and crackheads. And we make light of the whole situation. But as you can see, drugs are really a serious problem. You see it in New Hampshire. You see it all over the place. The drug underworld, the drug trade. It's dirty business. And, the world would be such a better place if drugs weren't the massive thing that they are. And the thing is, God bless Chester Bennington and his family and all the kids that he's leaving behind. Now, I made a video. Now, I'm not going to be a phony. I made a video about Chester Bennington, 20 minutes long, talking about how this guy had some nerve, dissing the fans, tearing them apart. I'm not going to apologize for that video because unlike a lot of other people, I stand by what I say. Even post-mortem, Chester Bennington said some horrible things about the fans. Horrible things about people that made him a millionaire. Horrible things about people that made him famous, made him a celebrity, made him the reason that I'm even wanting to make a video about him. Think about it. If somebody somewhere in the middle of the country, just working a normal 9-to-5 job for the rest of his life passes away, I'm not going to make a video about him. You're not going to see that on TMZ. You're not going to see that reported on all the media outlets. Now, this guy could been donating to charity. He could have been going to soup kitchens. He could have been adopting kids from third world nations and bringing them in. Of course, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie get all that attention, but did you ever think that maybe certain people that weren't celebrities, maybe they adopt, maybe they give to charity, and they don't promote themselves and say, oh, what a great person I am. You ever think about that for a minute? But it is due to us that put that guy over, that gave him those millions of dollars where we could actually all sit here and mourn his death and say what a brilliant artist he is. Well, you just answered your question right there, Brad, right? He was an artist. He gave back to society in some way. Well, other people don't. Just trying to bring about some sort of a perspective here of why I'm not taking back what I said about Chester Bennington, because a lot of people are going to do that. A lot of the same people I'm seeing that dissed him mere months ago about what he said about the fans in regards to their thoughts on hybrid theory and not wanting Linkin Park to change their style. Now, I'm a massive fan of Linkin Park. I love the band. I've been listening to them ever since I was 13 or 14 years old. I discovered them in 8th grade when they first came out. In the end, the giant paper cut, Crawling, all these amazing songs that they came out with. They released the second album and the third album, and even the albums that I tore apart and made videos here on YouTube about. I later on found a newfound appreciation for them. So I liked Linkin Park, and I liked pretty much most of the stuff that they had done, and I could have at least appreciate some of the other things that they had done artistically. But let's not be surprised by the death of Chester Bennington. It's a surprise, it's a shock, but really is it? The guy was addicted to drugs, and, of course, we're all going to rush to his defense, and we're going to say that, there were reasons. The guy was depressed. He was molested since the age of 7 for several years, and, thanks to our culture of rape and molestation, how we're told to deal with these things is really harp on them in our mind. Keep thinking about them. Don't try to get past them and become a stronger person, but keep thinking about the rape. Keep thinking about the molestation. We see this all the time. This is how the media tells us to deal with the fake psychologists and psychiatrists on TV. These millionaires that celebrity people that tell us, how to think and how to deal with certain situations. Instead of getting ourselves real doctors and real help, this is how we're told to deal with situations. Sometimes real doctors even tell us to deal with the situations in that manner. Well, here's the thing. Another person has fallen uh, death to drugs. Again, and who's another person that was very important to society? It was Whitney Houston. Very important to the entertainment industry. Many people were shocked and saddened by her death, and I was saddened. But I also made a pretty raunchy video that I still didn't take down to this day. I'm not really a big fan of the title, but I still like to keep these videos on here just to see my train of thought throughout the years, even if my opinions have changed. I've even made videos about how I support abortion. I still haven't taken them down, even though I'm against it at the moment. Our opinions change as we gather information. Our opinions change. So Whitney Houston was another drug addict, and she passed away due to the drugs, and everybody was shocked and saddened. And the thing is not that they shouldn't be saddened, but they really shouldn't be shocked. Everyone's saying like, "Oh, how could this happen?" It's the drugs. It's the drugs, people. That's why they die. It's because of the drugs. And that was obviously the reason this guy was lashing out. Obviously, he was unstable. He was unbalanced. This was a guy that really had a lot on his mind, a lot weighing on him. He was carrying around a lot of burdens. But here's the thing I also really need to say. What's just crazy about the whole addiction, the suicide. Here's a guy who could get all the medical help in the world, the finest psychologists and psychiatrists. He could basically get help from anybody. He's a millionaire. I mean, this guy made out like a bandit based on his music and his performances and touring around the world, the appearances he's made, and wherever else he might have, gotten royalties or gotten the paycheck from. All the money in the world. And he decides to commit suicide, either like taking drugs and purposely killing himself, at that moment by overdosing on purpose, or this was just, he just gave out. So you can consider that a form of suicide. I don't know which way they're looking at this suicide at the moment. Nothing's been confirmed. It's pretty much confirmed that it was a suicide, but, I'm not sure if it was one big dose all at once, or, this is just something that just happened over time. But this was a guy who was killing himself. But all the money in the world is the point I want to make. I know the old expression, money can't buy happiness, but it sure can buy you a whole hell of a lot. And you should be happy at the amount of money that you're making. If you're making that amount of money, you're married with kids and everything, and you're blessed in that way, you're going to kill yourself. This guy was, he had problems, but, he wasn't dying of a fatal disease. It is a disease, addiction, but it's not cancer. The guy wasn't having, big problems. He wasn't on life support. You have people on life support that still don't want people to pull the plug on them. You've got bums living in the street that are totally hopeless, and they're still not even thinking about killing themselves. But you have a guy like Chester Bennington who has everything in the world, who could have anything that he wants in the world probably, and he kills himself. And the thing is, I'm really kind of sick and tired, really. Even though I'm a fan of this guy and I admire his work, I don't admire him as a person. And I'm not really afraid to say that, even after his death. It's not really disrespectful to say so. Like I said, God bless him. I hope he's in a better place. He wasn't a bad guy. But I'm just saying he made some horrible decisions that I'm still going to think about and analyze here. I mean, this is a guy that had more than most people could dream of. There's so many people out there suffering and starving all over the world, and more specifically in this country. You've got veterans who are not even taken care of. They come back from a war fighting for this country, and they have nothing. They come back to nothing. Some of them with their arms and legs blown off. Paraplegics. And still, they can't get any help. You have people that save lives. You have Officer Familia here in New York. She gets gunned down viciously. You have this other incident. You have, well, forget about that. Let's talk more specifically about I'm not going to get into that. Forget about what I was about to mention. But, you have police officers gunned down in cold blood. You have, so many unappreciated heroes in the world, the military, otherwise. And nobody gives a crap about them. And these are people that have really contributed, not to your entertainment, but to protect you and protect others. These are people that have saved lives. I don't want to hear, oh, Linkin Park's music saved my life during a hard time in high school. I don't want to hear about that. How come we honor and we post up? Why is this all over the news? And I don't want to hear this phony baloney that I always hear whenever I call the media out on something. People mention that the 1-minute stories they run in the media. On cable news and otherwise, when you have officers and military dying, these little short blurbs that they mention, oh, by the way, somebody died, and they move on to the next topic. I'm getting sick of that, because you're not honoring these people, these fallen heroes, but yet you'll glorify the drug addicts, these people that live lives of sin, instead of honoring and truly commemorating and remembering and really putting into words all these masterful posts that people put up honoring Chester Bennington, thanking him for his service to the entertainment world. Why are we not putting up posts for the military and police officers, thanking them for everything that they've done? How about their service? They weren't there to entertain you. They weren't there to jump around on the stage, to play a guitar, to scream into a microphone. And like I said, this is coming from a metalhead. This is coming from somebody who genuinely enjoys metal and rock and is a big fan of this band. A very, very big fan of this band. And I mentioned that in my video that I made about him just months ago, where I talked about how I love Chester and I love everything that he had done on vocals, and I really appreciated his work. But there were certain things that I didn't appreciate that he was doing. But I'm just saying, it's just really funny that how lopsided our culture is, where it's so much on the entertainment side, and everybody else just gets a brief mention, just because they're not celebrities, just because they're not on TV, just because they don't have an album, just because they're not giving a concert. Why are these people not considered to be celebrities? Why do we elevate? And this is a question that has been asked for decades. I realize that this is nothing new. But I realize that no one is going to honor Chester Bennington while bringing up this comparison, because they're going to be afraid of the comments down here. They're going to be afraid of the backlash. They just want to get likes. They just want people to say, what a beautiful thing that they said. Well, but I'm not saying anything bad about the guy. I'm just making some brief criticisms, not that I'm really saying anything bad. There are some little negative things I'm saying about his lifestyle, of course, but I'm not saying anything, I'm not saying that he was a bad father or a bad husband or anything. I'm sure he was a great husband and a great father, but the thing is, I'm going to have to really bring this into perspective already, because I see the post out there, and we really are glorifying somebody who lived a very negative lifestyle, and we're putting them up on a pedestal, and we're like saying, why did they pass away? Because really, if you stopped and you thought about it, you could seriously answer your own question, and you wouldn't need to ask why, because it's drugs. So answer your question right there. And the same thing can be said about Wayne Static, which is a band that I like even more than Linkin Park. Wayne Static's music, I remember the first time I heard it, I was a massive fan of Static X. It's still a band that I constantly listen to this day. And it just haunts me that I never got to see him live. And that, Static X is pretty much finished unless they decide to come out with a new vocalist, which is highly unlikely. And we just simply didn't get enough music from them. And I still hope to this day that one day we see like a B-sides from them with unreleased material. That would be fantastic. But this is not a Static X video. I'm just saying how much I like Wayne Static. But the The truth of the matter was that this was a guy that was on drugs, and when he died, he took a huge, massive medication, street drug cocktail, and he killed himself. And I'm sure that's what Chester Bennington did. He probably did the same exact thing. But we can't just all sit around bewildered by this, because we know exactly what it is. It's drugs, and it's a very serious problem. It's a very serious vice. It's a very serious problem throughout the country and throughout the world. Drugs kill people. They're bad. They destroy your body. They destroy your heart. They destroy your brain. And that's why we saw these vicious tirades that Chester Bennington was going on. I mean, this guy was, traveling around on jet planes, pulling up to concerts in limos or whatever, a big glorious tour bus, whatever the fuck it was. It doesn't matter. But all that success, the fact that he was able to tour with a new album, it all speaks volumes about how much support this guy had from the fans. But he turned around and he lashed out on the fans. And people are going to make excuses because, he had mental illness and all that. And the thing is, I'm just getting a little bit concerned about societies because we keep chalking this up as an excuse. Listen, obviously, killers and murderers and rapists, they all have mental problems, or else they wouldn't do the things they did. Because if they had a functioning brain, we've all seen scientists study the brains of murderers and killers and very sick people that commit violent crimes, and their brains are abnormal. So, and the thing is, we don't make excuses for them. So why are we making excuses for celebrities when they behave badly, when they're poor role models, when they live these horrible lifestyles, and yet they're promoted in the media as great people, as we should bow down to them and worship them? Are they great entertainers? Are they great artists? Do they contribute a lot of entertainment? Of course, and I'm very grateful for that. As I said, thank you to Chester Bennington for all the entertainment, the great music that I will be listening for years and years to come. But, like I said, we can't just sit here and pretend like we don't know why the man died and why all these celebrities are dropping like flies. Because we all know the real reason. We just don't want to talk about it. Because if we talk about it, it becomes an issue. And then we really have to get down to the nitty-gritty. And we probably have to, maybe admit that, well, maybe these celebrities are not that great. Maybe they're not as heroic as we once thought. Just food for thought, guys. But anyway, no disrespect meant to Chester Bennington and his family. I'm just simply making a point here. I'm simply trying to do a case study here, trying to point out the way how people react to things and how things are not as we perceive them or choose to perceive them. God bless him. God bless his family. And rest in peace, Chester Bennington.